Well, hey there everybody, it's Chris from Rate the Record, and yes, it's a little late in the week, but it is time for an NMR, new music review. There are 3 brand new songs, there's tons of new songs in the world, but there's 3 that I chose, I listened to them, I'm going to tell you all about them, and I want you to have that discussion with me because that's what the NMR is for. So I guess we better start talking about music because that's what we need to do, so let's jump into it. So first up on the list today, we have the band Full of Hell and also the band Nothing. It's just a collaborative effort between these two, and they're collaborating, I can speak properly, on a brand new album called When No Birds Sang. Full of Hell is a seemingly all-around metal band. They do sludge, grindcore, death metal, etc. And they're out of Pennsylvania, and Nothing is a shoegaze band also out of Pennsylvania. Kind of a weird little combination there, but I guess I could see where the middle ground would fall. So that's pretty interesting. With this new album, I couldn't necessarily find a single, so I went over to Spotify and found the most streamed track off the album, and currently right now that is Spend the Grace. When it comes to the first minute and a half of this track, it sounds like a lot of different like ambient and experimental sounds. You have like light string tapping on the guitar and everything like that with quiet droning synths, and that drives about, again, the first minute to minute and a half. Then suddenly the sludgier instrumentals kick in, the very metal but yet shoegazy sound, so a good collaboration going on there. Then out of nowhere, there's this intense vocal screaming that comes out of nowhere, like damn near black metal intensity of screaming. It feels a little out of place, but oddly yet fitting with these slower and heavier instrumental passages. It took me a couple listens to get into that part of it, so eventually I did. I guess that's what matters the most. Going into the final quarter of the track, the intensity does increase quite a bit sonically, so that whole slow build-up that was coming in the first little bit of the song, or I should say the first like 3/4 of the song, it was happening in the background to build into this like noisier and very like atmospheric closing portion. So I thought that was more or less well done. So overall, I will say it's a decent track. It's a little all over the place in certain regards, but it's honestly not that bad. So I'd say go ahead, give it a try. Maybe you'll like it. So next up on the list, we have the band Idols, and they are a rock band, punk band, post-punk band, whatever you want to call them, out of Bristol, and they actually made an appearance on an NMR I did back in October. They had just debuted the first teaser single off of their brand new upcoming album, Tank, and the song was called Dancer. Well, this time around, they just dropped their second single called Grace, and because I'm very much looking forward to this album personally, I am more than willing to discuss the singles that they drop. So perfect opportunity, let's talk about it. The most consistent thing about this song, there's a lot of consistency in the song, but the most consistent thing is probably that cool little drum groove that you get in the beginning of the track. It drives through the majority, if not all, of the track, and despite the track being like rather calm and quieter and very peaceful, actually, it still has a very danceable quality to it, and again, those drums are a big part of it. So frontman Joe Talbot in this particular track too, his vocals are so soft and passionate in this track as compared to other Idols track that you may or may not be familiar with. But the vocals are actually really well performed in this. I actually really enjoyed this presentation. There's a light bit of like strain behind that softness that he has, which actually kind of adds a rawness to it. I really dig that. I think it's cool. Obviously not going for perfect. It's not even like he sounds bad or anything, but just I like how there's still that feel of realism behind that like raw strain to the sound. This track is really atmospheric, and for the most part, it's the guitars are building this atmosphere, this ambience and soundscape. They're just doing like a lot of experimental stuff that actually really helps this song, and I know there's probably synths mixed in there too, but I really like the weird stuff the guitars are doing to kind of build that soundscape a little bit. The bass is what's really driving this track, although granted it's a very simple whole note melody going all the way through, so you play a note, wait a whole note, play another note, whole note, you know, just gotta wait a little while. But you know what, it's very fitting though, given what we have in this song. Overall though, I will say it's a very beautiful track. I thought this was really nice, and you can't say that about a lot of Idols tracks, so it's nice that you can come back and actually say that. I would have wanted a little more out of this one, to be completely honest, rather than just the simple verse, chorus type of setup. But it's not terrible in any way. It doesn't sound bad. I could see this being like a middle of the album type of track, but I guess we'll know in February when it finally drops. But yeah, check this song out in the meantime. And finally on the list today, we have the band Porno for Pyros, and they're an alt-rock band out of LA, with half the band consisting of members from Jane's Addiction, most notably vocalist Perry Farrell. They honestly don't have much in their catalog. They have like 2 studio albums and like some singles that they had released, but they do have a brand new and final 4-song EP coming out in 2024, and today I'm going to be looking at the title track of that called Agua. When you reference Los Angeles and Jane's Addiction, it shouldn't come too much as a surprise when I say this really feels like some beach music. I mean, like, not like Beach Boys style beach music, but like, you know, if you heard old Jane's Addiction, that's kind of what I mean. That's what I'm getting from this one at the very least. The song has a very warm presentation to it, so you get that sand and sun kind of feeling to it. You get this mix of acoustic guitars and electric passages and everything like that sound really good mixed together. Perry's very sing-along style of vocals that he's always had, and it's still carrying well into his 60s now, so I think it sounds great. It all works together sonically, so it's very pleasing just going through this track. The main pieces driving the groove and the overall pacing of the track are definitely the drums and the bass. I mean, I think they're the saving grace here overall. Not that this is a bad song, but the guitars aren't really doing enough to catch me in this one. The vocals are fine, but again, not too much there. So the drums and the bass are actually doing a lot to kind of like save this one. It's a little lackluster, unfortunately, though. For a track that feels like it could have easily come out of the 90s alt-rock scene, which I mean all of these musicians did, this actually sounds pretty decent through composition and production. It's so easy for a track like this to sound washed up or completely washed out, considering this was written by a bunch of guys in their 50s and 60s, but this actually sounds good, which is nice to say, because like a lot of older bands that I've liked in the past that have come back and released new albums, it's boring and it's not that good. Not that this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard, but like this is actually pretty decent. Overall, it's a well-written and produced piece of music, and again, it does feel a little lackluster in places, but realistically, this could have gone way worse, as I had just previously mentioned, so you know what? All things given, it sounds pretty good, I like it, and I think, I don't know, maybe you should give it a try too, because maybe you'll enjoy it just as much as I did. Maybe, I don't know. And that's all I have for the new music review today, so thank you very much for hanging out with me in this particular edition of it, and checking out the songs if you did. And if you did, I want to know that you did, so let me know down in the comments below of what you thought of these tracks. Do you agree or disagree with me? What are your thoughts on them? Do you like these bands? Do you like these songs? Anything you want to do about that, let me know down below. I'm always very curious to hear. And hey, don't forget that you can also let me know over on ratetherecord.ca, maybe not specifically there, but the things that you can find there, because all of our streaming links are there, all of our social media links are over there, which social media is going to be the big one, obviously. Also, the RTR Club is over there. Merch, you can request an album for us to do in future podcast, which is kind of on hiatus right now, but regardless, you could still throw one in there and we'll do it sometime down the road. Regardless, ratetherecord.ca. If any of that sounds appealing to you, by all means, we would love for you to check it out. I did just mention that Rate the Record podcast is going on hiatus for a bit. Well, first off, we just hit the end of season 5. We just released episode 100 this past Monday, and that was Rush's A Farewell to Kings, an album that we were supposed to do way back in episode 1, pushed it off forever. We finally got around to doing it to wrap up season 5. And then, yeah, obviously all the bonus content's gonna be coming out now for season 5. Then after that, we go on a break, but by break, I mean hiatus. Like, Savannah's stepping away for a little while. We did make that announcement at the end of that video if you want to go check that out. There'll be a longer version of it coming out in January, but just in the meantime, you can go watch the previous episode that we just did, because it's there, it's awesome, and there's actually quite a big surprise in that one, a little bit of a difference when it comes to presentation. I think you'll know pretty soon in, so go ahead and check that out if you hadn't seen it yet, because honestly, it was a really fun episode to do. And other than that, that's all I have for you today. So once again, thank you very much for joining me in this video. Until I see you next time, go listen to some awesome music and have yourself a safe and happy week. Take care, friends.